I've always thought that Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn are pretty good hockey players. But apparently I might be wrong. Me? Wrong? That doesn't sound right. Detective Oddman Rush is on the case. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. Now, Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn have been a dynamic duo in the National Hockey League since the former was traded from Boston and the two have started playing together. Last time I checked, the two players have combined for 686 points over the last 5 seasons, and both players have signed lengthy and expensive contract extensions to remain with the Dallas Stars franchise for many, many years to come. However, one of the most important, yet rarely heard from members of the Dallas Stars chain of command feels that the team's two superstars can and should do more to help their team be a serious Stanley Cup contender. So the rather interesting news we are looking at today comes from an article written by CBS Sports on the 28th of December and is titled, "Dallas Stars CEO rips into two of his most valuable players in expletive-filled tirade for not getting it done." Oh, using naughty words are we, Mr. CEO? That's not very professional of you, is it? The devil's language should never be used by mere mortals such as yourself. And what is it they always say? The minute you swear, you've already lost the argument. Any more of that from you, sir, and I'll confiscate your phone. Might even take your iPad too. You're on your last warning, mister. I'm watching you, I'm watching you. Stars CEO Jim Light's comments about the pair seem shocking, as he was quoted saying, "They are fucking horseshit. Forgive me, father, for I have sinned." I don't know how else to put it, Light said to The Athletic's Sean Shapiro. The team was okay, but Seguin and Benn were terrible. Well, that's one way to communicate your frustration with your star players. Probably not the best way to do it, but a way nonetheless. Sure, they probably could be playing better at the moment, but to say these two players are horseshit is a rather baseless accusation in my opinion. Both Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn have scored at least 30 points through 39 games this season, and they are both in the top 3 forwards for average ice time per game, playing at least 18 minutes a night. Do you want them to put on the goalie pads and stop the puck for you too? Other than improving their points per game slightly, there isn't really much more that you can ask from them. I think calling these two players horseshit is a bit excessive in my opinion, but maybe that's just me. I'm not part of the Dallas Stars organisation, so maybe there's something I don't know. Light went in on the two players, saying that the two need to be held accountable, and was quoted saying, "We are a Stars-driven league, and our stars aren't getting it done. It's embarrassing, and no one writes it. Write it." Talk about throwing your two best players under the bus. Usually you're supposed to trash talk the opposing team's players, not your own. Calling out a player for not playing well enough, in the hopes that they step up to the plate and become a better player, is all well and good. But why don't you direct some of those comments towards the players that aren't producing when they really should be? What about Jason Spezza, who only has 21 points in 37 games? Or Blake Como, who only has 7 points in 38 games? Or Valeri Nichushkin? You signed Valeri Nichushkin once again to bring in some more goal scoring and to be a top 6 forward in your lineup after he had a successful stint in the KHL, where he played pretty well I might add, but since he's come back, to say he has underperformed is the understatement of the century. He has 5 points in 30 games and they're all assists. I mean, Valeri Nichushkin hasn't scored a goal since he returned to North America. The last goal he scored in a regular season game was on the other side of the world. Why don't you go after somebody like Valeri Nichushkin, Jim Lights? He's the kind of player that needs this talking to. Not Seguin, not Benn. They're the two players that are actually keeping your team going. Benn is the leader of the team. He stirs the drink, but he's not doing it. He's got to get it done. Lights told The Athletic before turning his attention to Tyler Seguin, where he said, "He's hitting posts. Wah, that's what I say about hitting posts. Get a little bit closer to the action. Actually go to the spot where you score goals. He doesn't do that. He never does that anymore. He used to be a pest to play against. People hated playing against Tyler Seguin. They don't anymore." You do realise that these two players, and Alexander Radulov, their line mate, are the only players that are scoring consistently for your team this season. Out of the 12 forwards you have in your lineup, these 3 are the only players that keep scoring at almost a point per game pace. If their line doesn't score, your team often doesn't win. Yet they're the problem in this franchise. It just genuinely baffles me, folks, how somebody could come up with something like this. Now, with comments as brutally honest as these being thrown about, people are bound to want to know what the two players in question have to say about all this. Whether it's a well-constructed statement from one of their agents, or a team representative from the Dallas Stars organisation putting out something that's been written by both the players. Instead, we got a response from the players themselves. Oh, this is gonna be good. In an article posted on Sportsnet the next day, on December 29th, titled, "Star Jamie Benn responds to CEO's critical comments," it was reported that both players met with the media and Ben said the following. "People have their opinions on the outside, and all it really is noise. When there is a situation within the organisation, I try to keep it within the organisation and deal with it face to face." Sounds like Jamie Benn wants to nip this problem in the bud internally within the organisation and talk man to man about this privately, as opposed to running to the media and talking about someone behind their back. I mean, Lights complains about Tyler Seguin going wah wah whenever he hits a post, but Lights essentially just had a temper tantrum in front of a journalist who is paid to write down what he says and publish it for everyone to see. Great job, Jim Lights. You're a genius. Nice one. Ben was later quoted saying, "I don't play for him." Well, technically you do, because he's probably the one that pays you your salary, but we'll just brush over that for now, shall we? "I play for every player in this room, the coaching staff. I come to the rink, and like I said, I am proud to be a Dallas Star, and I am proud to go out and battle with these guys in games." Look out, Jim. Sounds like Jamie Benn's weaponising that locker room against you. Hey, Jamie Benn, you're horseshit. Oi, Lights. Fight me, you scrub. Oh yeah, you and what army? This army, bitch. Oh, right. Well, it was just a prank, bro. I think everyone looks at the numbers, and that's the easiest thing to look at. The point production isn't where it could be or should be or was, so it's easy to point to that. He says that, even though both him and Tyler Seguin are scoring at almost a point per game pace almost halfway through the season. They are two of the top 3 scoring players on the Dallas Stars roster, and the third being their line mate, Alexander Radulov. I will agree that it is a valid argument that these two players should have scored more at this point in the season, because they are being paid a huge chunk of change to do exactly that, and they are such pivotal members of the team. But it's not like they're not producing any points. They're just under a point per game pace for the entirety of the season up until this point. There are many players, like we mentioned earlier, that are way below their expectations for this season. It's not as if these two players aren't doing anything. These two players give your team the best chance to win a game every single night. So I don't think these are the two players you should be going after. What this team needs is more consistent depth scoring, because when the star players start to go a little bit cold, which every superstar does at some point during an 82-game season, the depth players can keep picking up the goals and give their team the best chance to win. They also need their defense to stop letting the puck in the net, and their goaltending to stop being mediocre. But yeah, Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn are the problem. Let's just blame them. Let's scapegoat them for all of our team's problems. We're not a completely flawed team at all, are we? It's just those two. They are the problem. Yes. I mean, seriously, who can say something like this and keep a straight face? It just sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? Then, after the players had said their piece, Dallas Stars general manager Jim Nill decided to do what literally nobody asked him to do and continue this drama by throwing his 2 cents into the situation. Good job, general manager. You're really good at hiding away controversy for your team, aren't you? In an article written by NHL.com yesterday on December 30th, titled "Nill on Ben, Seguin, We've all got to be better," Jim Nill felt that, quote, CEO Jim Lights said what needed to be said when he criticised forwards Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin in the media on Friday, but added that Lights went too far in the language he used, and was quoted saying, "We've all got to be better. From management to the coaches to players, all the way down, we've got to be better." So, the message was right. Well, the original message by Lights was specifically picking out and shitting on 2 of your best players, so I'm not really sure that the original message was right. However, I do agree with you that from the management down, everybody needs to be better. So you're about 50-50 so far here, Mr. Jim Neal. Keep going, you're doing okay so far. Jim Neal was later quoted in the article saying, "I've talked to Jim. I don't condone the language or the tone. He's emotional. He wears the star on his heart. He got emotional, and understandably so, I don't condone that. But the message that was sent from him and management was dead on and correct. I agree with all of that. I'm not really that interested if Lights is emotional. He can be as emotional as he wants. He can cry when he watches a sad movie, or tell his wife that he loves her every time she wakes up in the morning. But he's a chief executive officer of a professional hockey team. It's not his place to publicly shame his players and tell them that they need to play better. If anything, that's the head coach's job. If Tyler Seguin or Jamie Benn had used that explicit language and publicly shamed the general manager or the CEO of the Dallas Stars franchise, they would have been severely reprimanded by the team or even suspended by the National Hockey League. But because Jim Lights is the CEO of the team and he holds a little bit of power in the franchise, means he can say whatever he wants and get away with it? I don't think so, mister. Jim Neal was later quoted in the article saying, "Part of that is Tyler Seguin, as we sit today, is 60th in the league in scoring, and Jamie Benn is 78th. And I've talked to them. They know it. We've talked about it. They know they've got to be better. Where would we be if they were in the top 30 in scoring? Would we have 2, 3, 4 more wins? We wouldn't be standing here right now." Oh my god, they are 2 of the players that are actually scoring consistently for your team. Your team's offense is as one-dimensional as a hockey player's personality during an interview. Don't you see that? Or are you trying to hide the incompetence that you have as a general manager to build a Stanley Cup contender? Are you trying to scapegoat them? Because that's what it sounds like, Mr. Jim Neal. Yes, these 2 players do need to play better, because your team is so woeful when they don't. But so does every single other member of the roster. Don't you dare try and pin this on just 2 players of the entire roster. It's such a dumb thing to do. Connor McDavid is arguably the best player in the world right now, and his team sucks every year. You want to know why? Because the team as a whole aren't playing well enough. Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn could score 50 goals each in a season, or have 100-point seasons each, and the Dallas Stars still wouldn't be a serious Stanley Cup contender, because the team as a whole aren't playing well enough. You can't just say it's just these 2 players that have caused the shortcomings of your team. Everybody in that locker room needs to play better. Neal was also quoted saying, "In Montreal, I'd probably be doing damage control with you guys, the media, because you guys would be talking about the players." That's exactly what you're doing, Jim. Don't pretend this is anything other than damage control. You've only come out and said something because you had to. Come on, man, you're not fooling anyone. Well, I think Jim Neal started that article off well, but it ended pretty poorly. Kind of like the Dallas Stars' playoff hopes these last few seasons. Ba-dum, psh. Hey, you like that one? Spent a lot of time on that one. Thank you, thank you. So we've heard from the CEO, the players involved, and the general manager. Surely there can't be anyone else. Right? Oh wait, what's that? The NHL Players Association has decided to get involved and release its own statement. This thing just never ends, does it, folks? It's like a soap opera, but with more explicit language and a bit more passive aggression. In an article published by ESPN.com titled "NHLPA Rips Stars CEO Jim Lights for Tyler Seguin Jamie Benn Comments," the Players Association said the following. "The comments Jim Lights made regarding Tyler and Jamie are both reckless and insulting. If players directed such comments towards management, how would those be regarded? To say that Jim Lights' conduct is unprofessional would be a gross understatement. In professional sports, all individual players and teams go through highs and lows, but this is not how professionals handle adversity." You know what? I couldn't have said it better myself. That's pretty much summed up exactly how I feel about this whole scenario. I swear I could have just said this like 5 minutes ago and it would have solved all of our problems. But you know why I didn't? That sweet ad revenue. Oh, don't look at me like that. I have to eat somehow. But in all seriousness, in terms of what I think about this whole situation, I certainly do think there is some truth to what Jim Lights had to say. Both Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn do need to do more than just score points to help their team become a legitimate Stanley Cup contender. Let's not forget that the Dallas Stars have only made the playoffs once in the last 5 seasons, so the team is definitely going to need Benn and Seguin to be at the top of their game if they want to return to see postseason action. These two players need to be relied on to do everything for their team. They need to unite the locker room when they're going through a tough stretch of games. They need to be able to play well on the defensive side of the puck, to get to the dirty areas of the ice and force the puck off the opponents. And they need to keep on being the dynamic duo that they've been for the last few seasons in Dallas. However, I think the Dallas Stars CEO has shown real disrespect towards these two star players and has showcased gross immaturity in taking this whole ordeal public for the whole hockey world to see. No matter how emotional or dedicated to the franchise you are, you never, ever air your dirty laundry out in public. Because all it will do is cause a ton of problems that never needed to be there in the first place, whilst the actual underlying issue never gets resolved. This is a discussion that should have taken place between the CEO, Jamie Benn, Tyler Seguin, and nobody else. It should never have gone public. Nobody should ever have heard of this outside of the Dallas Stars franchise. Publicly shaming your two best players isn't good for either motivating your players to do better or to show your fans that you've got things under control. General Manager Jim Neal was right to an extent. Everybody, from management down to players, has to be better. You cannot blame the shortcomings of this franchise on two players when the rest of the players aren't playing well enough. It's everybody has to step up and do their job. You can't blame the two players that are playing the best hockey for you and scoring the most points for your team when there are lots of players that should be scoring that aren't. Everybody has to be better, from management to the coaching staff to the players, everyone. Of course, Jim Lites is certainly entitled to his own opinion on players that he is paying to play for his franchise, but that doesn't mean he should take his criticisms of his players public to the hockey media. The CEO of a company should know better than anybody else that anything you say can be taken and used against you or taken out of context at any point in the future, especially if it's written down and if it's used as part of a news article. Just take a second to step back and think for a moment. When has publicly shaming a player ever helped them play better in the long run? You can't really think of many examples, can you? That's because A, it doesn't really happen very often, or B, it probably doesn't work, and I'm thinking it's the latter of the two. Now, regarding Jamie Benn's response to all of this, I think he has shown great maturity and has actually shown very strong leadership in his response to this whole situation. He has made it abundantly clear that he wants to go to battle with the players in the locker room. He's fighting for the players in the locker room and not for the executives higher up the food chain. And I think that's a really respectable thing to say, to be honest. I really hope that the Dallas Stars locker room rallies around Ben and Tyler Seguin and maybe perhaps turns this into a us against the world mentality, because I really think he showed some great leadership there. I think something like this happening is a great example of why Jamie Benn does wear that Captain C on his jersey. This is a prime example of why he is the right person to be wearing it, as he's done nothing but go through this situation with grace, maturity and professionalism. He made it abundantly clear he wanted, if there were problems, he wanted them to be sorted internally within the organisation. He could have gone out and started saying stuff about the CEO, but he didn't, because he's a professional. He's the captain of his team. He knows he has a responsibility to his teammates, to his management, to his fans, and to everybody in the hockey world to be professional and do the job that he has been asked to do with nothing else dramatic or nothing else crazy in the background. So I'm really proud of Jamie Benn here. I think he's done a fantastic job with this situation and he deserves to wear that captaincy. I've gained a lot of respect. I liked Jamie Benn beforehand and I thought he was a great player, but I think I've gained a lot of respect for Jamie Benn after this because he's been such a mature person through this situation. Who knew a 20-something or 30-something-year-old player is more mature than a 50, 60-something-year-old CEO? It's just ridiculous, isn't it? Whilst I don't think Ben or Seguin really care what the CEO has to say, and I don't think they'll take much of what he says to heart, these two players have already signed their big contracts with the team. They're already getting paid multi-millions of dollars every single year for the next at least half a dozen seasons because they signed on the dotted line. So they could decide to play however they want. They could very much decide they want to pack up and let the other players on the team do it because their CEO has called them out. They could get very somewhat childish about it and very bitter about it. They're well within their right to do that. I don't think they should do that, and I don't think they're going to do that, but they could do that because you've already signed them to their money. However, I think the way that they've handled this, and they're going to go through this professionally and keep doing their best for the franchise and keep putting up points and scoring goals and helping their team get those 2 points every night, I think that's the most important thing. The CEO of a hockey team ripping into his players like this is only going to alienate the players in the locker room, deter future free agents from maybe signing with the team and playing for them for a long time, and upset fans that go and pay hundreds of dollars every night to go and watch the team play. More specifically, to perhaps go and see Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin play. They love to see their star players play. So if you're going to say things like this, you're just going to piss everyone off. And besides, the Dallas Stars have plenty of other problems that they need to focus on before they are even a legitimate Stanley Cup contending team. Their goaltending has been woefully inconsistent these last few seasons, and their defense is very injury prone this year and has had some real growing pains with introducing some new younger D-men onto the roster. You could say that Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn are really the lesser of two evils. Or three evils, if you're keeping count. I know I've got some keener-eyed viewers out there. So if there is anything to be learnt from the drama in Dallas, it is this. If you are going to publicly criticise some of your players in the hopes that they play better and really step up to the plate, perhaps go after the players that aren't actually producing any points or playing their role on the team, as opposed to the players that are, because in the end, you're just going to look like a bit of a tit, really. Oh, and Nikushkin, step up your play, yeah? Otherwise, the CEO might start swearing at you in public and maybe send you back to Russia. Be afraid. Be very afraid. And with that sage advice, I'm going to end today's video. What do you think about Jim Lights' comments about Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn? Do you think they were taking things way too far, or do you think they were necessary to motivate them to play better? Let me know in the comments, I would love to hear what you guys think. But thank you very much for watching, guys, I hope you have enjoyed. Please feel free to like, subscribe, share, or watch some of my other videos. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye! A big thank you to Chris Gadsby and Max Artis for helping support this video via Patreon. If you too want to help support the channel a little bit further and get a shout out at the end of any future videos, make sure you head over to patreon.com/oddmanrush and become a patron today.